The following episode features Congressman Chuck Edwards answering questions originally submitted at his town hall event on March 13th, 2025. These questions are read exactly as they were submitted and do not necessarily reflect the views or beliefs of FixBuncombe.com or the host, Abbi. During the event, Congressman Edwards made every effort to respond to these questions, but was met with repeated interruptions from the audience. Our goal is to give him the opportunity to fully address these important and at times controversial questions and to show our support for his leadership and transparency. What's up, Buncombe? It's Abby, and today we have a very special episode with a very special guest. We have the United States Congressman for North Carolina's 11th Congressional District, Chuck Edwards. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Good to see you on a rainy morning.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have you here. We're really happy you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to talk to us.
Raise a flag of liberty, the land of the free, rejecting tyranny.
You served as the senator for North Carolina for the 48th district before you became the congressman. What made you want to change over to the federal level?
Well, we certainly could do better from the congressional level. I felt that I had the experience, the background, not only in politics but in life. I believe we need people representing us that have accomplished things in life, that have come from meager means. That's exactly me. I consider myself a man of the people. I felt that my skill set was necessary to represent the people of the mountains in western North Carolina.
Yeah. Speaking of your background, could you tell us a little bit about that? What got you involved in politics?
Well, my background actually began at the ripe old age of 16. I started working behind the counter at McDonald's. I realized the value of hard work. I realized that if I could work hard enough that people would recognize it, I would be able to provide for my family in a way that my parents were not. And several years ago, after working through McDonald's Corporation, doing a whole lot of different things, I had a chance to buy my own restaurants. Once I bought my own restaurants, I quickly learned that the decisions that are taking place on our behalf in Washington, D.C. and in Raleigh very much affect all of our lives. And I started paying attention. And one thing led to another. I realized I had a knack for talking with people and understanding folks' needs. And so I stepped in, never looked back.
Love that. Speaking of McDonald's, I kind of want to ask you a fun question. Back when President Trump came to Asheville, you gave him the French fry certification pin.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us about that real quick?
Yeah, sure. Well, I own McDonald's restaurants. I have for several years, and we give folks a French fry pin, a certification pin, once they master working the fry station. And just a couple of days before in Pennsylvania, President Trump had worked fries. Mm-hmm. And I thought it would be just a fun, light-hearted thing to do to give him his French fry certification pin. He certainly appreciated it. I've gotten a lot of comments, many negative, a lot of positive. Most folks took it in the light-hearted spirit that it was intended.
I love that. I think that's one of the coolest things. So I kind of want to, I know you're very busy, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we wanted to give you a chance to answer some of the questions from the town hall. We attended, and the amount of disrespect that was shown to you is just appalling. And I just wanted to give you a chance to answer those questions uninterrupted, if you're up for that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I want to preface this by saying the congressman has my complete and total support. Some of these questions may come across as critical. I just want to say some of them, they don't reflect my political views, but Anyway, so the first one is, what are you doing to ensure the protection of our Social Security benefits?
Well, the first thing I do to protect it is to not vote for anything that would harm it. We have a Social Security system that's in place now. The most vulnerable part of our Social Security system right now is that it's running out of funds quickly. And by statute, when Social Security was first enacted, those benefits will reduce if we don't do something to get our fiscal house in order. But the number one thing to protect Social Security is do no harm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly my intent. That's the president's intent. He's been very clear about that.
Yeah. So the next one is, how do you justify cuts to staff of the VA helping veterans, especially those with long-term care needs?
First of all, I applaud the work that President Trump, Elon Musk, his team, and DOJ are doing to mine out waste, fraud, and abuse from our federal government. Nothing should be sacred. We should thoroughly examine every single federal agency in its efficiency and how well it's serving the population that it's intended to serve. And while I know there's a lot of emotion around serving our veterans, and there should be, it is not the intent of the president, myself, Elon Musk, or DOJ to cut any job of someone that is directly handling healthcare needs of our veterans. There's a bureaucracy there. There are administrative positions that most certainly should be looked at. We look at, when you look at the staffing of the VA nationwide, it's about 85,000 more jobs. It has about 85,000 more jobs than it had pre-pandemic. And yet, when you look at the outcomes for veterans, they are no better. The wait times are still the same. The prognosis, diagnoses are still the same. And so what you see taking place right now is just simply a look at efficiency. But the intent, we're all on board, is to not reduce the job of anyone that is actually providing care for our veterans.
Taking that and going to the next question, it says, how do you plan to support our active duty service members and their families who are stationed overseas?
Well, the first thing that we're doing is we're trying to give them the budget that they need to equip themselves and defend themselves. That's why you've seen our current Secretary of Defense reduce staffing in the Pentagon. We don't need butts in seats in the Pentagon. We need ships, planes, and missiles. So the first thing that we're doing is we're bolstering our defense budget to buy the equipment, the technology, the research that we need for those folks to defend themselves. We're plussing up their pay. The CR that we passed just a few weeks ago included some of the largest pay raises for our active military in our nation's history. We're making sure that we're showing peace through strength here in this country. I applaud President Trump for having a backbone and standing up against the forces overseas. And we're creating an environment where folks simply appreciate those active duty military.
I love that. So the next one is, the large Ukrainian population in Western North Carolina has been rattled by threats to end temporary protected status. Will you support extending that status until there can be an orderly return to a safe Ukraine?
Simple answer is yes. There's so much disruption in Ukraine right now. We can't possibly, as a humanitarian society, try to force back folks to Ukraine while the country is under siege by Putin.
Can you detail 5 things you've done this week to protect our democracy?
Oh my goodness, yes. The first thing that I've done this week is I've met with a number of media, talking to them about what's been taking place in Washington, D.C. I'm sitting here right now talking to you to communicate to folks in Western North Carolina what's taking place in Washington, D.C. I have ardently been working on a plan with the White House to rebuild Western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. We're still not rebuilt. We've got a long way to go. I'm meeting with a group of constituents immediately following this to hear their concerns about the dam out west. I have put together a newsletter this week already. It's only Tuesday. I put together a newsletter to send out to folks to communicate what's taking place in Washington D.C. Ask me this on Friday, and we'll have a lot longer list.
I have a couple more. Why did you vote for the continuing resolution budget bill that will cut Medicaid, SNAP food stamps, public housing, veterans benefits, etc., when you have so many hundreds of thousands in this district that are depending on them?
Well, first of all, the premise of that question is absolutely incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
I did not vote to cut Medicaid, Social Security, veterans benefits, or any of the other things that you mentioned. The continuing resolution, and I think you're really talking about two different congressional actions. The continuing resolution was simply to extend the operation of the federal government from March 14th to September the 30th, under pretty much the same spending as the previous administration, which is not the ideal way to get things done. The other congressional action that you may be referring to is the budget resolution that I helped put together that will provide the framework to save $1.5 to $2 trillion of our taxpayers' money and offers the structure for the committees of jurisdiction to make the decisions necessary under their particular purview to achieve that savings. At the same time, we bolster spending at President Trump's request to secure the border. We prevent the biggest tax increase in American history from going into place at the first of next year. But the premise of your question is just not right. That one's loaded.
Yeah. Do you feel secure in the things you have voted for, and why?
Oh, absolutely. I support, number one, the Constitution of the United States. Number two, the principles under which I told the people in Western North Carolina that I would take to Washington, D.C. And number three, I've voted in the interest of the people in Western North Carolina.
I love that. So that's all the questions that I gathered from the town hall, but I was wondering, could you give us a little bit of an update on the Hurricane Helene progress?
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. You know that I was the author of the $110 billion natural disaster relief package that passed Congress on December the 20th. The House leadership, the appropriations chairs allowed me to be the author of that, since it was our district right here in Western North Carolina that had most of the needs. We were hit harder than anyone else. So that funding has now taken place. The issue at this time is there are tens of billions of dollars in the hands of federal agencies that are intended to get into the hands of people here in Western North Carolina, but the bureaucracy is preventing that from happening. I met with senior officials in the White House last week because, you know, on January 24th, President Trump flew down to the district. It was his first trip on Air Force One since being inaugurated. I had the honor of being invited to participate in that flight. On that flight, President Trump asked me to be on a task force to give him some suggestions on how to rebuild Western North Carolina quicker. I've been actively involved in that for about the last 10 weeks. I put together a 101-page report that I was invited to the White House to present to President Trump's team. I went through 62 different recommendations. We had a very, very productive conversation. The president was very open to those ideas, not all of them, but most of them. And now my work is to go back to Washington, D.C. next week and start picking those off one at a time to help us rebuild here in Western North Carolina.
So, as you know, there's a lot of misinformation out in the media, as we've seen by the questions that from the town hall. So there's a lot of going around that FEMA money is drying up. Can you make any comment on that?
Yeah, that's absolutely false. In fact, I helped pass a $110 billion natural disaster relief package, of which about $20 billion by formula is specifically intended for Western North Carolina, and we have access to tens of billions more of that pool. The issue right now is not that there's no money. The issue right now is the bureaucracy that has been taking place in Washington, D.C. for years, is making it difficult to get those funds into the hands of the people here that need it. But yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of political spin out there, and so many mistruths or downright lies, if you will.
Yeah. From your answers, it sounds like you have pretty good access to President Trump. That's really interesting for a small district like ours. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. I've met the president a number of times. He has given me direct access to a number of the folks in the White House. All I have to do is pick up the phone, and my call is answered. My concerns are listened to. Whether we agree totally on the thing that we're talking about or not, the president very much cares about the people here in Western North Carolina. He does want to see us rebuilt and rebuilt quickly.
So is there anything else you'd like to say to your constituents, like how they can get in touch with you and reach you?
Yeah, sure. I've got my official website is edwards.house.gov. I invite folks to go there. There's a place they can contact me directly. They can sign up for our newsletter. Another thing that I like to remind folks is right after the hurricane, I set up a special number. It's 223-FIX-FEMA. And if anyone's having a problem with FEMA and caught up in the bureaucracy of getting the help that they need, if they'll call 223-FIX-FEMA, I've got an ample staff that's well-trained and passionate to help folks out.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time, Congressman.
Thank you. I've enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you.
All right.
Until next time, stay involved, stay informed, stay active. Thank you.
Bye now.